So I'm just putting you guys on mute. I'll just play the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to the Flat Pack Show, episode 60. Oh, sorry, cut you off there. Welcome to the Flat Pack Show, episode 60. We've got our special guest, Spike Valentine, Uncle Spike.
Hey kids, how goes it?
I'm your host.
Glad to be here again.
It's good to have you, dude. I'm your host, Flatmeister. We got Switch Point.
Hello. Apparently we were talking about people who review things just for clickbait, or people who actually do review things, because this is the type of stuff that happens in the background.
we got Nerd Waffle, who I cut off just earlier.
Oh, that's okay. I was just saying that I knew it was clickbait, but I clicked on the article anyways, just because I don't know, I guess I still fall for it, even though I know it's clickbait. But I saw this article, and it was like, oh, Pokemon announces 2 titles, and I'm like, oh, they're going to be banking on, people are going to be like, oh, there's going to be 2 Pokemon games come out in 2019, and then you click on it, and it's like, oh yeah, Sword and Shield, and it's like, no freaking duh, because, you know, that's what they did.
I'm still debating which one I'm going to guess, Sword or Shield. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And lastly, we've got Crumple Point as well.
Alright, I'm just here to bitch about stuff I don't like and give the money to it anyway.
So,
I would like to add that it's happening not only with movies but with comic book reviews too, and it's tiresome because you know, it becomes repetitive. It's just the same, like all the CBR articles that praise comics. Oh, it has art in it, so it's a good comic. It's just the same, like, it's SJW, so it sucks. And because I don't need to watch 1,000 videos saying the same thing.
It reminds me of stand-up comedy in the 80s. It's like the guy just gets up on stage and he goes, "Huh, Thatcher, am I right?" Huh, and the whole crowd laughs, and then it's that like 400 times.
And now today it's Trump, am I right? It's pretty much the same.
Exactly. It's just, I don't know if this is what you're going on, but like, I just find that there's, like, and I'm this way too, so I'm growling at myself too, but like, there's just so much negative stuff, and it's like, I already have 10 shitty things going on in my life. Yeah. I need another 20 because this person wants to bitch about nothing because they have nothing better to do.
Yeah, I mean, I watched I enjoy some of Yellow Flash's content. Like, it was something to do with like Captain Marvel reviews or something. I was the movie reviews, watching his video, and I just clicked on his Patreon, just curious, like, oh well, how much does he get, and sort of how much support is he getting? And it's in like his sort of blog or bio. He was saying like, oh, you know, help me get pay. I only have a certain amount of money I can spend per week on my pull list, or that's not on my pull list, or whichever, for comics that to roast. I'm like, dude, why? And that's why we've done
Well, he is a peculiar setup though, because I think what he does is, because I talked to him every now and then, but it's a nightmare with time zones. But what I think he does is he doesn't want to basically give Marvel the money, but he's kind of prepared to have the viewer pay for it, on the understanding that he's just going to take the piss out of it and use it as material.
Yeah.
Which is like, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
Because that's his shtick. Like, that is almost like a themed comedy show, if in a sense. But and he does actually, like, he will give it a fair crack if it's a surprisingly good thing. But like, the problem I'm having with most movie reviewers, like, I really like Grace Randolph, for instance, and she reviews pretty much everything that comes out. And she reviewed Captain Marvel, and like, you could tell she was just scraping the bucket to find good things to say about it. Like, and don't get me wrong, it was a very honest review. She said, like, she told Mary Sue, blah 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 blah. But it was like she was enthusiastic about it, but it was like she was forcing the enthusiasm, because it was like she's going on about how boring the movie is.
Yeah. And
she's clearly not that interested in the subject matter. So I'm like, well, why are you enthusiastic about it and saying it's decent? Like, it's if this movie wasn't as big in the public sphere, you have gone to, and if you had, you wouldn't have told anybody about it. Like, she had nothing to say about it. There was, and she does these little bullet points up, and she basically glossed over, like, two of the whole bullet points were Clark and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And she spent a sentence on both of them, and those weren't meant to be two separate sections of her video. Like, that's how little she had to say about that film.
Jeez.
And it's like, that's a professional reviewer, and that's all we're getting. It's like, we don't need people who don't even do reviewing as a job to go on and hate watch stuff. Because the other thing, Disney don't get like a sentiment on the £20 note that they receive from you. It doesn't go a different color because you hated what you watched. They just get the 20.
Exactly. That's what they should do, though. They should set up currency that's like, if you didn't like this, give it a red
That's
dollar.
why Canadian currency was all the different colors.
Yeah, well, that would suck, because a red is like 50, so I wouldn't want to give $50 to it just to hate it.
Not a lot of people know this, but when you're like money laundering in Canada, you have to put like a color catcher into the.
Yeah, damn it hit 50.
But I mean, that's why we do the Flat Pack show. Having guests on that are creators to showcase their projects, because there's a hell of a lot more passion going into these projects. With all the people.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, whatever you do, I don't think we concentrate mostly on like the indie stuff here, because like we get like a lot of indie people coming to join us and stuff like that. But honestly, the indie stuff is rarely ever spoken about in mainstream comics. It's rarely ever spoken about on these people who roast books. It's rarely ever spoken on like, no matter where you go. It's even on comics, movies, all that kind of stuff. That indie stuff is rarely ever touched upon, because like there's really not much of an outlet for it unless you're a self-serving indie person who's trying to like make your own social media plugin.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think there's also there has been a little bit of a problem, and it's not a problem like an SJW problem or anything, but I think with some of these projects, there's a little bit of logistics lost, in the sense that, and it's not to name call, but for example, Ethan Van Sciver or Diversity in Comics have their comics out, but they haven't made available, for example, a review copy for even their friends in their channels. Let alone make like a digital comic or something that could be accessible for people who want to review it and not have to pay $50 to review the comic book.
Yeah, like that was the thing with the Peptis challenge, is I made it $2 because I was just like, look, I need something for this. Nobody's going to fucking hear about it if they're not subscribed to me, so we're talking a pretty low count, although I did sell quite a number of them. Yeah. But I was just like, I'm not fucking charging people stupid money just because it's a Comicsgate related thing, Yeah. And I know I'm not nearly in the standard of these guys, but I'm kind of thinking that's kind of what they should have done as well, personally. Like, just sell it like it's a normal comic. I realize that they've got to get funds together and stuff like that, so fair enough, but like, it just feels artificial. And you've got these guys, well, we had Jermaine on earlier, and we had George on last time, we've got Spike on today. It's like, their stuff's actually exciting. Like, it's different, it's odd, and it's come from a place generally where the person was in a situation where they couldn't not make it. Like I don't want to speak for Spike, and he can tell me to fuck off, and he'll tell us more in the course of the interview thing. But Spike doesn't need to make this comic. He doesn't. He's not like in a contract. He's not on a deadline. It's something he had to do because he wants this thing made, and that makes it automatically much more exciting than your standard run of the mill. I think that's why people liked a lot of the diversity in comics ethos as well, because he was just like, he was always planning on making this comic. Like he kind of was in a similar situation, but like a lot of these things, it just seems to be people jumping on a bandwagon.
Well, now that you mention it, the thing I've had with my last two projects, being Fantomas and Alienation, my current one, is that it's not even that I get paid or anything to do it. I've lost money already doing it. Like it's not. I don't see it as losing money. It's just investing on my stuff. Like we have first a very talented guy doing the pencils, but he couldn't commit to the schedule because he's getting married, stuff like that. It was never going to come out if I spent waiting for him. And I already have Bob Stone, who made the logo for Jawbreakers and Ironsides and stuff like that. He made the logo for Alienation. I had to pay him, so I just had to like go ahead. I found a guy, Renzo, who has worked at Cenoscope doing stuff like Hell Priest, and my other associate is, we call him Lobo. That's his nickname. He has inked comics like Wolverine Civil War and the Uncanny X-Men. So that's right now. That's the group, and we are basically redoing what I was doing with Rocco, the previous penciler. And it's not that I have a deadline. It's not that I'm getting paid to do it. Actually, the first 10 pages I'm paying on my own, and they're going to be available for free. I'm going to make a prologue available for free.
Really?
Though I'm not getting any money to put them out there. I just believe not only I want my story to be out there because I actually enjoy making it, but I think it's also time to remember that this thing started about consumer rights. So you cannot bitch about consumer rights all day on Twitter and not do the thing that is conducive to consumer rights, to have an informed audience, to say, look, here, you can review it yourself and see if later you want to contribute to the cause instead of just guessing and taking sides. And, that's how I feel about consumer rights. That's how I feel comics in general should be made. Like, for example, you have the first floppy available for free, and if you like it, you can go buy the trade paperback. That's how I feel comics should be made nowadays.
I think that would be a far better model money-wise as well. It just seems logical to me. And that dude that came out with his 10-point plan on the direct market, that was his sentiment as well.
Yeah, I think we have to consider we are serving different masters, being creators and being comic book stores, because for a time comic book stores were also on the side of Diamond and Marvel. Just put as much shit you can because we are selling it, and the day it stopped, that's the day they complained. But consumers have been noticing this shit for a while now. I would say my breaking point was Secret Wars, the 2015 one with Marvel.
Well, the original Secret Wars. The 250, the 20, the one they did recently. Sorry, the event.
Yeah, exactly, that one. So I think it depends, but since I'm one of the older Comicsgate guys, and my idea has and always will be that Comicsgate is not a group of creators selling comics. It's the idea of consumer rights needed to have a sustainable industry. I want I went through logistics. I went with it with my former partner, and I went through it with my mother, who happens to be a business administration academic here in Mexico City. And I tried to make, the most reasonable logistics I could to both make it sustainable, profitable, and consumer friendly. Because I think you have to find the middle point.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. You have to find a point where like the consumer doesn't feel like they're being cheated, but at the same time, you also have to find a point where it actually makes sense for you to even be able to do what you're doing as well.
Yeah, in fact, I'm pretty accommodated myself, but I cannot speak for my partners. My partners have families. I'm single, so I have to take that into consideration too. That unless I make novels and just write them myself and put them out there, you're gonna need to have a sustainable business model, as well as your, as my idea of consumer rights. So, and I don't think what I come up with is just perfection, and the meme with fucking Magneto or whatever from Shane. But at least I think it's time to try for these projects to be consumer friendly, because that was the idea all along.
I mean,
and I don't. Go ahead.
Go on. You carry on. I was gonna sort of go off on a slight tangent.
He was gonna talk about something unimportant anyways.
So go on, Spike.
And probably what I make is not for everyone, in the sense that not everyone likes the same genres, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just trying to make a comic the best the best I can, and if people don't like it, at least they can try it and say they don't like it with certainty that, okay, I give it a try and this is what I think about the comic. That's perfectly fine.
Well, me and Spike, you and I spoke about on my channel this, and you could maybe elaborate a little bit, and I'd actually like to hear everybody's thoughts on this. But the whole idea of there being, like, let's say 40 successful superhero titles and 40 successful albums in the charts and all that shit, that was based on the fact that you had to buy physical copies of everything. Which was controlled by the people who could get those products out as quickly and as widely as possible, and that's how those business models were built. It was not based entirely on public demand, but because of the internet, and because you can send a non-physical piece of entertainment to anyone, anywhere, you don't have that same problem. And now you can just fucking fire off 1,000 comics non-physically to anybody who wants them, which means all niches are catered for. But that then means that the mass market appeal is no longer what it was, and it might not even be viable anymore.
Well, I almost think that's a good thing, because you get more variety. So all these people are saying, we need more of this and we need more of that. I am an SJW. I am a Comicsgate. I'm a crow that just happened to stumble upon comics and really like comics. I think that's great, because we don't get this thing where there's one, when, I like comic book stores and everything like that, and that's fine. But when you had that, like you said, controlled market, it's like, oh, well, we're putting out one, maybe two superheroes, one or two comic labels, and if you don't see anything you like on that rack, well, too bad, so sad. Now it's like, oh, if you don't like what's on the digital comic rack, you can go make your own, and there'll probably be, even if it's not a big market, there'll still be maybe a possibly market for it,
Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't have to be you don't have to be making $500,000 every project to make it sustainable. You just need to, get the people paid who are working on it, make it so that they are able to put the best effort possible into it, and that's basically it. Just make it sustainable. It's not that hard. I think some people that started with the Indiegogos think that they need to, have these almost millionaire success, and it's not true. Just try to make it into a viable job. It's just like, it's basically what YouTubers nowadays do, in the sense that maybe they are not making like PewDiePie numbers every video, but they make enough. They make enough to live in a lifestyle that lets them continue doing this work. And I think that's the sweet spot. And if you can go further than that, that's pretty cool. But you don't need to think that's a priority.
Well, to be completely transparent, we've done this is our 60th show, even the Flat Pack. We've made nothing on the Flat Pack, but we do it because we love doing it, because we can.
Well, I love talking to all you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love hearing all the things you have to say.
To be honest, it would be nice to be able to do this as a career, but if you can do it and it doesn't put your life off any amount that you're suffering because of it, then, and you enjoy doing it, then just enjoy doing it. And, if you can that's probably the end goal. That would be the end goal for me, is to, whatever I do that I love to do, to make enough money that I can live off of doing what I love. But not everybody can do that. So you just got to do it because you love to do it, with that end goal in mind. And at the end of the day, if you don't meet that, it's not a big deal. You move on, and you either can do it or you can't do it. Moving on.
This is the Flat Pack, and we're going to a commercial break. Sponsored by Subaru.
Buy Peptis, your favorite soft drink.
Yeah. Sponsored by Peptis. If you don't drink it, we'll kill you. Anyways,
it was a very successful advertising campaign.
If you don't drink it, and you can use this for your an upcoming comic, Crumple, you have my permission, and it's recorded. But I'm just saying, if you don't drink Peptis, we will seriously consider hurting this cute bunny rabbit.
I was having a chuckle with Mr. Marvel the other day, because some person was going on about, never, ever, ever use memes as a form of humor in comic books. To which everybody was kind of like, what? And then they'd like reference this thing that wasn't like it. Firstly, it was a normie meme. Like, it wasn't even what we would all consider a meme, and secondly, it might not have even been the same thing. And I was just like, you fucking what? Like, and I was just like, but my whole comic is a fucking meme. Like, the name of the comic is a meme. It's a mix of Pepsi and the Beepus meme. Like, the title of it's a meme. Most of the story is a fucking meme.
And with the
like,
little
if I had not been on the Ancapistan meme page, that comic would not exist.
To be fair, Crumple Point in general, and his life, and probably his life even outside of his Crumple Point persona, is probably a fucking meme. So
my girlfriend's tears can attest to that.
Why
can't he just be normal?
Your tears are memes, and that's why you're with her.
I don't know why, but I always picture Crumple Point having like an afro, but like Bob Ross. I don't know why.
Not a word of a lie, my hair's far too long just now, so it actually looks like a less trendy version of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, because it does this weird thing where it goes up and out at the sides.
Honestly, I think the only time we've seen you, Crumple, is the first time we did a stream together on mine and Switch's channels. That first time we did a live stream, and that was when you had short cut hair. So that's how I imagine you all the time.
Yeah.
Is glass.
Well, no, I usually have a buzz cut whenever I can. But anyway, we need to talk about Spike's thing.
Because I was about to say we're talking
memed everything to death.
Everybody wants to talk about my thing.
We're on the subject of comics and indie comics. Tell us about Alien Nation, because I think I brought it up earlier. It was on your Twitter. Yeah, some of the concept art.
Yeah, what happens with this concept art and everything is that it basically is like in the movies when you're in pre-production. The heart of the thing has to be the characters and the story, and making it all make sense and fine-tuning it even before you start making a single script or a single panel. Those scripts have been made. There's already a script down, and we actually later on I'm going to start developing more of the first script that is already done with the penciler. But yeah, we're putting out concept art. You can see it for yourselves at Panels Gutters, because that's the studio we are starting. Lobo and myself. It's called Panels and Colors, in reference to making comics. And this idea was in basically in the midst of this Comicsgate thing, and it's like I was just thinking about, well, what about making a comic like Stan Lee did with the Fantastic Four? Just making the fucking comic I wanted to read when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just and I see people, people love the 80s. So people have, Stranger Things. And I thought, like, well, people don't really like the 90s. They only like the memes from the 90s, but not like what people is actually nostalgic about the 90s. And my idea was to make like this superhero team of teenagers. And I'm hesitant to call it a superhero team because I don't know what the fuck they are. They just happen to gain superpowers.
They're meat
but
bags.
they are, but they are just teenage dirtbags. Like I was a teenage dirtbag.
So was I, and I listened to that song as a teenager. So.
Come with me Friday, don't.
Yeah, exactly. You have like the grunge kid and the nerd kid, and they are not like, what we all dislike about SJW comics is like they read like a Saturday morning cartoon. But I wanted the tone of these to be like Clerks, and it's like, oh, these guys are just assholes, but they are like smart,
good assholes.
Yeah, greedy assholes that you like, even though they are assholes.
I remember you when you, I think, first tweeted the goth girl with the big chunky leather boots. With all the
nice save,
Blackmeister. With all the straps, with all the straps and the fishnet tights.
Yeah, no, I think people forget a lot about the 90s, but I have them ever present because it's like I never left. I still dress like that, and I still listen to the music and stuff.
I'm there with you, Spike. Like I don't know, like I was only born in '88, but like I grew up with an older family, so it's almost like I was subjected to a lot of the '80s when I was younger and the '90s at the same time. And
yeah,
I'm right there with you that like I still relive the '90s. Like I'm doing a watch through of Batman the Animated Series and Transformers from the '80s right now, and I'm like you, I relive it.
Yeah, and it's like things. For example, people think like people in the 90s dressed like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for some reason. It's like no, most people were like grungy. Most people look more like Kurt Cobain than Will Smith.
Yeah, people look a lot more
grungy or like shirts that looked like furnishings.
People dressed a lot like you would see in Clerks and Mallrats in at least the early '90s.
Yeah, or I don't know, like
it's almost like those two movies. They didn't even have a costume. They just were like, "Hey, show up in your normal clothes."
Yeah, I think that it's part of what.
Spike,
reality bites and singles, and you watch that, and you don't even realize that Friends is based on Singles, even though Singles was like the grunge movie. And it had fucking Pearl Jam acting in it.
I was about to say, is that the one that State of Love and Trust by Pearl Jam was used on? That's fucking underrated as hell song.
The soundtrack is amazing. And you in the movie there was like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam performing live in the movie, and
This was, ladies and gentlemen, if you're younger, this was in the days before Scott Stapp stole Eddie Vedder's voice from him. Remember that on Celebrity Deathmatch? Remember back, boys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Celebrity Deathmatch is even.
I fear they are trying to bring it back, but I fear it won't. With the current generation, it's just not gonna speak to the same level.
It'll just be Katy Perry versus Donald Trump 4 million times. But
So,
sorry, go ahead, Switch.
Well, no, I was just gonna say we're just gonna create like that faux punk again, pretty much.
Isn't Jersey Shore kind of like Celebrity Deathmatch, but with each other
and without celebrities? With
well,
people
semi-celebrities. People
this was important. This was before people became celebrities for no reason at all, like the Hiltons or
Honey Boo Boo and shit.
When
like
you
that.
actually needed talent to be in mainstream media.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Apparently, I read that Will Smith didn't really do good in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but they kept him anyways. And yeah, so you didn't really need. Yeah, if you watch the first episode, they couldn't cut much out, but you can sometimes see if you look really closely, him mouthing his lines or whatever when he wasn't speaking and stuff. And I guess acting, he got a bunch of acting lessons and stuff like that, and that's kind of where we're at now with him, is that he had to have a bunch of, but they still kept him on Fresh Prince, and he of course grew and did better at acting. And
well, he did put in the time, and he was a rapper already. I think.
Yeah.
The difference is that Paris Hilton hasn't still learned how to act in I don't know, in more than a decade or something.
Oh yeah. Well, 20 years.
She has been in like 2 feature films, I think.
Yeah, more.
Not counting the night vision one.
Not counting the porno.
Talk us through the main impetus for the story or the rough themes of it, or like what is the main points of the story?
Well, it's very, very in your face. Like one of the things that defined, and I went deep into, and it's not that I already like those kinds of movies and all those kinds of literature. Just talking to my friends and stuff about, hey, remember the 90s? But trying to dig out what really happened. That I think it's just it's we have Generation X, and the 90s were the era of the Generation X, and just like the Generation X is the lost generation, and nobody talks about it, and they act like it never existed, even though we're still alive. I think the same thing happened with all these aspects from the 90s. They just disappeared from pop culture. Like there was a lot of themes. You listen to it in grunge and rap and stuff about actual social alienation, and I'm not even speaking about class and stuff. Just being an alternative kid that could not relate to the things they were trying to sell you, and that's why a lot of people turned into what was considered underground, like Nirvana, like Pearl Jam, like Soundgarden, or like rap, like Public Enemy and stuff like that, and that became the mainstream. It was the first time like the people actually felt alienated, and they say like, no, I don't feel like Axl Rose, but I can identify with fucking Kurt Cobain. And that's one of the aspects, and I think that made itself very ever present, because also aliens themselves were very in vogue in the 90s, and even in dance music they were always used like iconography. And you have the X-Files, and you have characters like Batman or the X-Men, who themselves are alienated from their own society. So I thought that should be kind of like a theme to explore with these characters in this fiction. It takes place in a fictional country that it was basically born from alienation of years of history, and what happened with alienation. And I think we're looking at it now. Even Comicsgate is an example of it. Comicsgate is diverse because everyone has been alienated from the elite, from the elitists.
Yeah, and all the gatekeepers as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It seems that you know, and you can do good things with that theme, I guess, and I think that's a good thing to explore, and it's better to explore it with a group of teenagers who are like all these delinquent assholes, like or at least I was when when I was a teenager.
Oh, I was too. My group that I hung out with in high school, because we had cliques and groups and stuff in my high school. Um, we were the shit disturbers, and
Are you the class clown, Ned?
Yeah, yeah, and my buddies too. Whatever classes they were in, they were class clowns. We started a collective. One time we started a jelly bean fight, and another time we started a food fight in the cafeteria. So yeah, and the jelly beans weren't even ours. Someone got these 2 big bags of jelly beans that hung out in our group, and we just sort of like, hey, can we have some? And we just started throwing them at people.
Nice.
And then they started trying to throw it back, and then it hit somebody else. And yeah, it was.
So Spike,
fun.
Spike, how long has Alienation been in the works then?
It's been in the works for probably almost a year now. But in the works also means when you're making comics on your own and you cannot draw or anything, looking for people to work with. And this was originally pitched to a guy who's right now coloring books at Marvel, Israel Silva. He's a friend of mine from Monterrey, Mexico, and he wanted to do it, but he just didn't have the time. So I went with Rocco, who I developed the story and everything even further. And the first art that is also on the Twitter, that's where it came from, but it couldn't consolidate because he had all these commitments and couldn't find the time. Even though he wanted to do it, he just it was becoming clear it was growing increasingly impossible to make it the way we wanted.
Yeah.
So I came associated with Lobo the Inker, and we found Draco by mere luck. And it's funny because I didn't remember about Renzo, the new penciler. And we already tried to pitch a story with him once when I was working at Marvel. And Lobo was in it too. So it's funny that we wanted to pitch a Negasonic Teenage Warhead story back then, and now we came back together, but to make a comic of our own. And since we are all in tune with that, and we also love 90s comics and Gen 13 and the Joe Madureira Uncanny X-Men and stuff like that, so it became very we clicked very well. So I think if there was any time to attack it, it's now, especially because we just waited for Renzo to finish his work with another comic book he was doing. Now he's, as of today, we are entering in full alienation mode. So you're gonna see a lot of it coming out at Panel Scouters. We're gonna start posting art and stuff, and when we have the number 0, the prologue, it's gonna be available for free over there, and we're gonna try to post it everywhere we can. And you can roast it, you can do whatever you want with your copy that you can get for free.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will definitely roast. No, I'm just joking. So how long? Just adding on to that. How long has this for you? How long has this story been? You said it's been cooking in your brain since you pitched the Negasonic whatever.
Oh no. We the team was originally making a Negasonic pitch for Marvel, but we just came together recently. But for me, who started it with different people, the idea became a necessity. It must have been last summer. Last summer, I talked to this guy from Marvel, Israel Silva, who's a friend of mine, and we wanted to make a story because we like similar things. So I started developing it, but he has a lot of work, so I looked for the other penciler Rocco. I started developing it further, and I started looking into actual logistics on how to make it both available for the public and sustainable for us to make.
Yeah.
So I came up with the model, but I couldn't go any further with Rocco because of his, he's getting married and stuff like that and work. So the third group, the one that is now, is we have the time to commit. We are all in agreement that it's not about making $1 million. It's about making it sustainable and making it the most available we can for everyone. In fact, I think this is going to be the first comic in this Indiegogo type that is going to be released in 2 languages at the same time. Yeah, of course, it's going to be in Spanish and English. I can do both as well. So why not make it, accessible for everyone from the get-go?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So quickly here, I understand that you're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So I'm presuming you're going to have like lower tiers, which are going to be digital. Are you going to offer physical tiers as well, like an above higher tiers? And like,
actually, we are not offering other than 1 tier.
Okay.
The thing is that we just want the way we are looking at it is this is the production costs. If we get the production costs, we can make as many as you want, but we need the production cost. And if you want, we're pushing for 60 pages of story plus extras and stuff like that. It's gonna be around maybe 80, maybe 70. I don't know, because there's even people already from my artist friends that want to make their pinups and stuff, and that will be great if we can get them on time. But the thing is, 60 pages of story are that's the bare minimum we're making of story, and those 60 pages will cost the same that the Marvel comic book with 20 pages costs. It would be like what is it, $4.99? So we're giving for the same price 3 times the comic, and you're going to be able to have it the day we it's not gonna be that I have these problems with shipping or your the mailman broke your fucking comic book or whatnot. You're gonna have your copy the day we promise to have it, and it's going to be available in 2 languages, and it's going to be not $50, it's going to be $5. I think that's what needs to happen. And if people if they say, we read it, we love it, we want the physical copy, then we are going to look into how can we make it so that we can make it very affordable and very affordable and widespread. For example, I've talked to Peter Cimeri about if we are able to produce it with the first campaign, maybe we can make a version of Alienation available through Alterna or something like that, and that way it would only cost you $150 for 20 pages, and we can split it in 3 issues. And even those 3 issues are going to be less costly than a Marvel comic book with 20 pages.
Yeah. See, that's actually
and
really
also
cool.
Everybody who is working on this comic book has worked on a Marvel comic in their professional capacity as well. So you are getting the quality of a professional comic for this.
Renzo, I don't know if he has published with Marvel, but he has published with other with like Dark Horse and Cenoscope and those things.
To be honest, that's probably better, in fact.
I mean, they've all had a professional impact in the comic book sphere. I mean, I think that shows that they at least have some knowledge of what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lobo, he has been doing comics. He worked for Marvel for like more than 10 years. I mean, he started way back when Venom was being done with Paco Herrera, who was the guy who worked with me in Spider Verse, and Paco Herrera did a long run with Mark Millar on Spider Man, and he did Venom and stuff like that. And he has worked in Image. He has worked at DC. Lobo is a veteran. The thing is, they are pushing out inkers, but I think inking is important, and that's why we want to make it. If it's gonna be like a 90s centric comic book, it must be done the same way comics in the 90s were done.
Oh no, you need the inks, man.
Yeah, exactly. We are making traditional pencils with inking, so that you get the quality you expected from those comics.
Like, the thing is like, even if it's a digital ink or if it's like real ink, it doesn't matter. Like the inking is important because like there's certain details that inking will use to like to emphasize on a piece that like people sometimes forget. And this is even on digital. Like when somebody sends me like some rough sketches, like I've worked on rough sketches for people and I've inked and colored them for them every once in a while, just for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just sometimes, while you're inking it, you're like, well, okay, what can be done to make this look cleaner, but at the same time still emphasize the lines that this person is trying to emphasize? Or what, if I use these shading effects during inking or like these darkening effects here, will this make something else pop out or make something like look a little bit better? Like, what kind of translations can I get? Can I get this to look more shiny? Like, is this supposed to be leather? Is this supposed to be nylon? Is this supposed to be like inking really can help like emphasize those things too if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, inking does the texture you mentioned. It helps with dimensioning, putting depth into the things, and it also works. Inkers also work like editors, like drawing editors, because they can see the picture in the way that the penciler didn't, just because they are a different person. And they can adjust stuff that maybe didn't work, or they have this small anatomic it looks weird or something, and they can fix that kind of things. And that's why that's one of the reasons 90s comics look so damn well, and they hold so very well even today, because the inkers were I mean, look at people who were inkers. David Finch was an inker at Top Cow before he became a penciler. And so was Alvin Lee from Udon. And now Alvin Lee's a fucking star. And, these people know their job. And it's sad that they are being, pushed away from comics, because I think if we want quality comics, you need the whole falafel.
I agree with that. Like, I having now physically inked my own book, it was just not the same. Like you see it penciled and you're happy with it, and if you've only ever penciled, that's all you ever are used to your drawings looking like. So then I go and ink it, and I'm like, holy shit, it's a different drawing. Like, I don't know, like the level of, like you say, you can alter the dimensions, but you can add more emphasis to certain parts of the line work. You can make everything more dynamic. It adds so much pop. Whereas if you see something, when I say digitally inked, I don't mean like there's nothing wrong with inking digitally, but what I mean is if you use just like a program to highlight, you know how you just like fill black. You see these guys doing it; they just select an area and fill it black. Like, it's just not the same. There's something lost there.
There's ways to do that digitally, and I know people who do it, but we are doing it. We want to capture the feel, and we are thinking on future, because we're also looking right now. We don't have a colorist. Part of the money that we are raising is going to go to pay to the colorist that is going to make the comic look appropriately, and we have to take that into consideration. For example, if we want to print it with Peter Simeti, you cannot print all types of colors in newsprint, because they become smudgy and blotchy. You have to know what you're doing. So we are looking for that specific because that's the way comics were made back then. And fortunately, Anterla is using newsprint. That in the beginning of the 90s, comics still were with newsprint, but they were starting to put into them digital coloring. If you look to stuff like Generation X or Uncanny X-Men or stuff like that, you can see it's newsprint, but the coloring is not the same coloring they used to in the 80s, which was only the machines coloring. There was actual attention to the newsprint, so we need to look into that, and that's part of the goal we want when we raise the money to produce the entire comic book. But as I say, I also think it's important that people don't just throw money into what they buy. So that's why we're making a preview, number 0, so they can see, this is what we do, this is how I write. Maybe you check it out, and if you like it, you can throw $5 into the cause, and we can keep making comics. Because when it comes to story, I already have like 360 page issues planned. I already know where the story is going in the future.
Well, the issue 0 could be good too, because it might be a way to get it could be a way to get some introduction story sort of out there. I don't want to say like out of the way, but sort of, here's 10 free pages, here's a little blurb introduction of the comic and the story and all of that, before you purchase the first issue, kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually planned those pages as a literary prologue. It's just like a prologue that you would find, let's say, on a novel. So this actually takes part in the story, but it's planned in the sense that it will make you, okay, this is the paradigm we're dealing with in this story. These are the characters. This is what happens to them. I invite you to look into what happens to them.
So we're probably almost at a time here. So there's one thing I like to ask, and you know this because we've talked before, Spike. And your answer could be the same or different, but if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I'm looking to make a comic book. Do you have any advice?" What would you tell them?
Do it.
Well,
besides, do it.
You have to do it, but you have to do it the whole thing. If you have to, if you want to pencil, you have to really get into studying the craft. If you want to write, you have to study the craft. You cannot just sit and make stuff, because look at what happened to Marvel when hiring people who didn't have an experience. If you're serious about it and you have passion, I think you'll find passion studying all these kinds of things. Like I collect script writing manuals, especially comic book script writing manuals. And even if I wasn't a script writer, I think I would read them out of the passion and the interest I have for the topic. So I think most of the comics that work, like Watchmen and stuff like that, came from this. They were passion projects from people who were not thinking about, I'm gonna make this bunch of revenue or whatever, but I have this great story to tell. I think that's all you need. If you have a great story to tell, find a way to tell it the best possible, and everything will come later. If it's a good story, it will make money by itself. So don't worry about it. Worry about making a good comic.
If you build it, they will come.
Exactly. That's a ticket, dude.
Kevin Costner will hunt you down. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm loving the art style, dude. It's really cool. Like we were saying in the Discord, we'll definitely have to have you back on again. Like, I'm sorry, sort of having to cut the show. I mean, I know that we usually stick to about an hour. Just like time bloody flies by on the Flat Pack show.
Lately we've been doing these hour and a half to 2 hour shows.
Yeah.
Time flies because I throw a clock out the window.
But yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on again, Spike. Anytime soon, or even when you have.
You guys just let me know, and I'm gonna keep everyone posted at Panel Scholars about our developments, and you should keep an eye on that, because we're gonna give the first issue away over there you're gonna get a link so you can check out the comic if you want to roast it, or if you want to review it, or if you want to tell your friends, or if you like the 90s, or and you say, oh, you missed this detail on that, that's valid too. I mean, I don't know everything, even though I'm a 90s nerd.
I want to roast it. I mean, I haven't even read it yet. I have no facts on it, but I already am saying I want to roast. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to.
You can print your own copy and burn it if you want on TV.
No, man, I would never do that. I think it's going to be good because, like speaking with you before, I definitely know you're passionate about comics, and we all know you're passionate about comics. We all know you, and I think that I hope that this does really well because this just seems like a really good passion project, and this seems like a really you obviously know what you're talking about, kind of thing. Yeah, so
well, plus you're a professional. You've come from the cream of the crop. When you worked at Marvel, and yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on when issue 0 comes out. You said the prologue.
Yeah, we're actually starting today, and we're gonna work on it this month, and maybe it's out before this month ends, but it's not gonna be out until it's good. That I can tell you.
Yeah. You hear that, Big Two? You could learn a thing or two from Uncle Spike here.
They're not listening. No, they're not even listening to their own common sense.
Only put it out if it's good. But yeah, I'm sorry. Once again, I'm really sorry that I sort of wrapping up so soon.
Should be.
But yeah, let's sort of go to final words. Spike.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really final words, but just keep in mind both. If you're making a project, make it the best you can, and also keep in mind that you need to make it available and affordable to the public. It's a two-way street. Comics are a two-way street.
Yeah. Sage advice. What about you, Switch?
Honestly, keep track of Spike. Follow him on Twitter.
He always gets banned on Twitter.
He does. Follow him on Facebook. Is there check him out.
I was just gonna say, is there anywhere else people can follow you that you don't normally get?
If you follow Panels Gutters, I'm not in charge of that account, and that account has been trolled, and it's not in violation of anything. We barely post anything unrelated. It only retweets like my work and Renzo's work. Because Lobo is privated his Twitter, so you can DM Panels Gutters, or I have a Facebook which is Spike the Writer, and on YouTube I'm Spike Valentine 13, I think.
I have to say, I saw some pictures of Jack Dorsey recently, and by the look on his face, I think you are getting to him. So.
So sorry. So go on, Switch. You were still doing your final words, and we cut you off. Sorry, dude.
No, it's fine, dude. I'm used to it.
No, go on. I insist. Anything else you'd like to say?
Honestly, I was only gonna say, just follow Spike. Keep up to date, on this project. Also, if you like what he's doing, let him know. I mean, he'll be that whatever you can do to let him know. Hey, we appreciate you trying to be trying to make the comic at a reasonable price and still trying to get that best quality out there at the same time. That in and of itself definitely does, it definitely is pretty awesome. And if you appreciate that, and if you have any ideas for him, Spike has always been pretty awesome at that, and definitely let him know, because if you have any ideas for him, he will definitely most likely take it and be like, oh yeah, if I can use it for something, I'll definitely try. Yeah. He's always been pretty awesome about that.
Cool. What about you, Nerd Waffle?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Switch said, and Spike being an awesome guy and really easy to talk to, and I just think that he's a great guy, and I really hope the best for this comic, and I think he knows what he's talking about. And I wish him the best luck for this, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thanks, Ice. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And what about you, Crumple?
I would say buy Spike's shit because it'll be good. No, seriously, the guy knows what he's talking about. He knows the art form. He appreciates the art form and the discipline. On a sort of more general, final wordy kind of note, I think if we all strive to be more like that with things we enjoy, we'll all get better at them, and more importantly, whatever it is you're working at will be better for you doing that. You'll improve the thing itself by approaching it that way. And please don't go and give money to things you hate just to own people. It's childish.
Like with this whole, I forget what the hashtag is, but something Alita, like basically like the Alita challenge. That's it. Like watching Alita to own Captain Marvel. I'm like, how about you go watch Alita because it's an awesome looking movie.
That movie is definitely worth it on 3D and IMAX and all that shit. I went opening night when Alita came out. It was amazing.
And so I suppose my final words is keep supporting creators that you enjoy. Stop supporting the big two because they're not going to change their ways. We've said this countless times. Support all of these. Make a proactive point of your eyes switch.
Oh, sorry. Response to something that I said earlier. It's becoming a thing. I'm sorry.
It's make a proactive point of seeking out these indie creators on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, or even just on their social media. Keeping an eye out for these new up and coming creators. They need people's support and they deserve the spotlight and the showcase.
Yeah, I just want to say something quick. If you don't like Alienation, you'll probably find another comic book to your liking from any of the Indiegogo guys. You can check out IndieCron and keep on the look for stuff you actually like, because you don't have to buy it just because my comics gate. You are entitled to buy what you like and to find what you like.
Just buy Spike's comic. No, I'm joking, but yeah, that's I agree with that.
And so with that, thanks to everyone that's joined us. I think Zero Cool briefly was there in the chat. He says, "Wow, someone who doesn't suck at art." He said in the chat. I think it's because I had your working your sort of concept art up on the stream.
Oh, thanks. I'm actually on my phone, so I'm just looking at your guys' avatars on Discord. But thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's all you can really see. You're not on the YouTube channel, but no worries.
Yeah, well, like I said, all of the guests that we've had on the show, they've all had really great, unique art styles. Really good quality. So yeah, thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Or if you're watching this later on, go check out the other episodes of the Flat Pack Show on the playlist. Don't forget to follow all of these guys on their YouTube channels and their Twitter accounts as well. They're all basically the same as our names on YouTube.
Spike's is Spike Can Twit, I think it is now.
Yeah.
You've changed it so much, or got suspended so many times. So
well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So with that, I've been Flatmeister. It's been Switchpoint.
Yeah.
It's been Nerd Waffle.
Remember to hug the person next to you and keep it dusty.
It's been Crumple Point.
Back off.
And it's been our guest, your Uncle Spike.
Subscribe and like this video, kids.
So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take it easy. Bye.